welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I repot any new plant that I get from the nursery. I personally love to repot all my plants just because I want to put them in my own soil mixture. I want to give them the fertilizer because who knows how long it's been since they've been fertilized. Also, I like to treat them with a systemic houseplant insecticide just as a prophylactic, just so I don't bring anything into my home and it gets spread to any of my other plants. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I repot today. So first I'm going to start with showing you guys the products that I use. So I use the Osmocote Plus. It's the indoor houseplant fertilizer. I personally love this because I believe it's good for up to 6 months and I don't have to fertilize every time I water. And then I like to use the systemic houseplant insect control like I showed you guys earlier. And this is really good for a lot of insects. It does say like what it specifically targets in the back of the instruction manual, but it targets most of the pests that we worry about in houseplants. I also use E.B. Stone's Organics Cactus and Succulent soil. So I actually put it in this bag, but it's like a green bag that you can find at some of your local nurseries. I'll go ahead and link all the products in the description below so you guys can find them. And then I bought some river rocks that I like to decorate the top of my plants with, that I bought from like a local rock store. So I put that on top once I'm done repotting my plants. This also helps from the soil floating up top when you water it. So I really like to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm repotting this Peperomia Frost that my boyfriend bought me. So it is very silvery and sparkly. I hope it's showing well on camera. So I'm really excited to repot this guy. I am also going to repot this Calathea White Fusion. It is so gorgeous. I have heard that these guys are super high maintenance, so I'm curious to see how it's going to do. So far it's been doing pretty well. I have noticed that it dries up a lot on the leaves, so I've been watering it with filtered water, but we'll see. Okay, so in order to get started, I am just gonna go ahead and take out my little peperomia out of here. So I like to kind of just squeeze the pot like this to kind of loosen up the soil a little bit so the plant pops right out. And I make sure to be very gentle not to try to break any roots. Okay, so this is the old plastic bin. So you can see the peperomia seem to have a little bit of a fragile root system. So I'm gonna gently go ahead and break up any of the old soil. Just gently. Like, you want to be gentle, but don't be too gentle where you're not taking off any of the soil. And then just try to not break as much roots as possible. It's kind of like a little hair massage, that's what it is. But yeah, do that. Just like to give it a good massage. There it goes. And this plant has actually grown in the last couple of days that I got it. I've noticed a lot of its new growth is actually growing, which is a really good sign. It's happy in its new home. And before I brought it in, I made sure it didn't have any pests or anything that I could see, but I'm still gonna prophylactically treat it just because you never know, right? So that's as much as I'm breaking up the root ball. It wasn't really root bound, so I don't need to take off all the soil. And the roots are pretty fragile, so I don't want to like really cause any damage too bad where the plant can't recover. So now I'm going to go ahead and repot it in its new home. So I am going to use this Terra Cotta pot, and you guys, I love to use Terra Cotta just because it's a very porous planter for your new plant. It's a really good home for it. You know, when you water it, not only does the water like drain from the bottom, but it also continues to leak through the pores of the pot. which is really good. It prevents root rot. Plus with my cactus and succulent soil, it'll prevent me from overwatering and causing root rot, so that's really good. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and take my soil and take my little tool. I freaking love this guy. Before, I used to just grab the soil and put it in the pot, which is a really good option too, but I found that it just takes me forever. It gets super messy. So I finally bought a little tool to plant and I love it. This brand is Corona. Wow, that's very fitting for the time right now, right? But yeah, so this is the one I use. I really like it. My boyfriend recommended it to me as well. Okay, so now I put about this much soil and then I just kind of move it around a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and place my plant in there and see like if I like how deep it is in the pot. So that's kind of how it is right now. And I'm good with this. Okay, so it has like about 1 to 2 inches to move down, so I really like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fill the soil along the sides. Okay guys, one thing that I did forget to mention at the beginning of this video is whenever you repot your plant, you only wanna move up like 2 inches max. So this was in a 4-inch plastic pot, and I believe this is like a 4-inch or 4.75. It didn't really need to be repotted because it wasn't really root bound. I just personally love to do this with all my plants. So that's what I do. You don't have to repot all your new plants that you bring home from the nursery. I personally just like to, just because I have more control of how much time I water, just because I know what kind of soil it's in. And it also makes me feel better knowing that I get rid of most of the old soil that doesn't have much nutrients in it. It could possibly have pests, anything like that. So I just like to kind of get rid of most of the old soil and put it into new soil. Because these guys, since they were like tiny little babies, they've been in that same exact soil, and you just don't know when's the last time it was changed, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that up, and I just remembered I didn't even put fertilizer in this thing, but it's all right. It has a lot of organic nutrients, so I'll go ahead and put fertilizer in my next plant. But that's that. So I'm going ahead and filling it up and kind of just pressing around the sides to make sure it's kind of nice and not too compact in there, because you don't want the soil to get super compact, but you do want to press it down a little bit. Okay, there it goes. And potting's always a messy process, guys, so don't be afraid to spill soil. I mean, that's why they invented brooms, right? Okay, so now just go ahead and give it some good taps on the sides so the soil can settle down, and then just tap it up top. And there's my little peperomia frost in its new little Terra Cotta home. I have to remove that little sticker. But yeah, there it goes. That's the first one down. Actually, I have to add the rocks, my bad. So yeah, I add these river rocks. Rocks come in several different colors. There's like white rocks, black rocks, river rocks that are kind of have like assorted neutral tones in there. It looks a lot cuter when I wet them and kind of clean them off, but I don't like to clean them off because whenever I water, any of the excess like dust gets off of it once I water, so I'm cool with that. Rather skip that step. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up with the rocks. Alright, that looks good, you guys. And there it is with the rocks on top. I don't know if you can really tell. You can see it better on this side, but it's less full on this side. But there it is, and that's my little baby in its new home. So that guy, I will probably give it a very light watering today, just because I don't want it to get super dry, because peperomia, especially the peperomia frost, you don't want it to dry out too much. So I'm definitely gonna probably water that little guy today. And then this one, I found this little cute square Terra Cotta for it at Hobby Lobby. Who knew they would have Terra Cotta pots? Like, I didn't, but yeah, they do, and they have cute little shapes. Like, I know they have this like geometric shape that they have online, but they haven't restocked it in stores, so I'm curious to see when they have that one. But I found this square one and I thought it was super cute. Okay, so that's gonna be the new home for this guy. Ooh, and this one's pretty dry, so it just came right out. Okay, and look at the roots of this one. Wow, it's probably a little bit more of an extensive root system than the peperomia frost. Okay, so this guy, I've noticed they put a lot of like peat moss, because the issue with calatheas is you kind of always want to keep them like at the moist range of watering, because I know if you do have inconsistent watering with them, you do get like fried tips. So I am actually going to keep some of this peat moss. It does kind of go against with what I usually do, is getting rid of all the old soil. But in this case, I want to keep some of that peat moss, and I just don't have it with me. So I am going to leave that in there to kind of retain a lot of the moisture, because I don't want to continuously water this guy and prevent it from drying out, because then it won't be a very happy calathea. And then I'm just going to kind of undo the roots a little bit here, just so it can encourage like growth down. But it's not really that root bound, so that's all right. So you see, kind of just undoing the roots like that. And then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and place it in the planter. Okay. All right, so that's as much of those roots that I undid on here. So I don't know if you can see that. Try not to drop too much soil, but that's that. So you put a little bit of the peat moss there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add some of my cactus soil onto there. Okay, that should be good. Mix that around. So I added about that much soil. Put it in there. And place it there. So that's kind of perfect for me. Actually, maybe I should make it a little bit more shallow, so I'm gonna move the soil down a little bit. That looks good. So I'm gonna put it right there. Looks really cute. Love it. Now I'm just gonna go ahead. Actually, I keep forgetting this step, you guys. Oh my gosh. I need to put like little note reminders behind me to add these steps on there, because I do forget it even when I'm not filming, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to fertilize that plant. But it's all right though. New soil has a lot of nutrients, so it's not like absolutely necessary. So I just shake a couple of these little pebbles in there of fertilizer. Just kind of mix it in there. You don't want to over fertilize, because that can actually be pretty bad for your plants. It does come with a little cap that you sprinkle in there, but honestly, I lost it and I just kind of guesstimate it. So I just put a couple little sprinkles in there. I don't know if you can even tell, but we're gonna go ahead and put that in there. So now it is fertilized, and it's gonna have good nutritious food for up to 6 months. So there you go. And I know there's like other good fertilizers out there, such as like fish emulsion, something a little bit more organic. Or you can use like earthworm castings. That's definitely more organic as well. I just personally like to use this because it was inexpensive. I can find it anywhere, like at any big box store. So that's why I like to use the Osmocote, and it's like, it lasts for 6 months, so it's perfect because I'm super busy. I don't have time to be fertilizing my plants every once a month due to my schedule, and then I have to keep track of what plants I fertilize because then you don't want to over fertilize. So yeah, this kind of works for me, but you guys do whatever works for you and like experiment. That's kind of what it is being a plant parent. You just kind of go through trial and error until you find what really works for you and kind of your schedule. But yeah, I really love this. And honestly, if you have a little plant friend, well, you have a plant friend, me. So I'll give you guys the tips. I'll give you guys the goods to help you prevent errors that I've done in the past. But I've also, like my boyfriend, he's really into cactus, so he's like my go-to plant person to ask for tips on like fertilizers, soil, everything like that. I know cactus are a different type of plant, but you know, planting is pretty much similar. I mean, it does vary from plant to plant and species to species, but they all kind of require the same things: water, sunlight. You know, others require more or less, but it's pretty much the basics. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and treat this guy with insecticide. So, actually, you know what? I had treated its old soil with this insecticide, so I'm not gonna treat it again because it's already absorbed it. But if I were to treat, if this was my first time treating it, so it has the directions in the back. I think it's like 1 tablespoon for like a 4-inch pot. So you just grab like 1 tablespoon and they're like little granules of insecticide, and you're gonna kind of work it into the first 1 to 2 inches of the soil. So I would just like sprinkle it on there, work it into the first 1 to 2 inches of the soil, and then go ahead and water it, and it should be good. And this guy, I think, lasts for up to 8 weeks. So that's really good. So then I'll just continue to isolate these guys for like another week or 2 just to make sure I don't see any pests. And then I'll go ahead and put it in its forever home next to my other plant collection. That way I just prevent any pests, you guys. I never want to bring something home and introduce something. I mean, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. You have living things in your home. And they're all like next to each other, so it's going to happen. But if you can reduce the amount of the outbreak or kind of catch it early, it's always better. And I can't tell you how much it stresses me out when my plants are sick. So yeah, I'd like to prevent that. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with this little guy. Just adding the rocks here. All right, and those are the rocks. I'll show you guys where you can see the rocks a little bit better. But yep, that's my Calathea White Fusion repotted and the Peperomia Frost. So thanks for tuning in, you guys, on my other plant video on how to repot your plants. Again, the tips were to just upsize about 2 inches, use a really well-draining soil. I love to use cactus and succulent mix because it drains really well. You can use like indoor house potting plant mix, that works well too. I would just probably add a little bit of perlite to that to make it more aerated. But for example, this cactus and soil mix, I don't even add any perlite because it's really well aerated. It has pumice, lava rock, sand, and like little fine pieces of bark in there that kind of keep it really well aerated. So I don't have any issues of like root rot or overwatering, which is really good for my situation. And yeah, well, thanks for tuning in, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.